All right, brain power time, because today we are diving deep into intelligence. You've sent some amazing material, specifically an excerpt called Becoming Smart is Easy, actually. Now, I know that sounds like a bold claim, but let's see what it's all about. This piece lays out 11 key points, some familiar, maybe, but others might really surprise you.
You know what's fascinating about this source is how it changes how we think about intelligence. It's not something that you're born with or not. It's a skill. You can actually develop it. That's a game changer right there.
Yeah, it really is. I used to think that you were just kind of stuck with what you were born with,
Yeah.
with the brain power you had. But the idea that it's a skill, that you can
Yeah.
improve it, that's incredibly empowering. Wait a minute. Maybe I'm not stuck where I am intellectually. I can actually get smarter. Sign me up.
Exactly. And the science backs this up. The source talks about neuroplasticity, which is basically the brain's ability to change and adapt throughout our lives. Think of it this way. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on your experiences and what you learn.
So let me just make sure I understand this. So even if someone struggled in school, or maybe they don't think they're naturally smart, they're not stuck there.
Absolutely not. It means no matter your background, past experiences, everyone has the potential to learn and grow. Now, this might sound a bit abstract. So let's get to a practical example. Imagine learning a new language or a musical instrument. It takes time, effort, and consistent practice. Well, the same goes for boosting your intelligence. It's about engaging in activities that challenge your brain and help you develop those cognitive muscles.
So like hitting the mental gym. That's a workout I can get behind. All right, so let's move on to the next point, all about curiosity. The source calls it a superpower. And you know what? I kind of agree with that. It's that drive to ask questions, to explore new ideas, and never lose that sense of wonder about the world around us.
Curiosity is the fuel for our learning engine. When we are curious about something, we're more likely to dig deeper, seek out information, and make connections between different ideas. Think about it. It's much easier to learn something when you're truly interested in it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about a time you were fascinated by something. You probably researched it like crazy, read everything you could get your hands on. You were driven by that pure desire to learn more. That's what curiosity does for us. It unlocks that internal motivation to expand our knowledge.
Precisely. And the source has some tips for cultivating this superpower. Reading widely, watching documentaries, attending lectures, basically exposing yourself to a variety of perspectives and ideas. Don't be afraid to ask why and how in conversations. It's about actively seeking knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, sometimes my curiosity gets me into trouble. I'll be researching something for work, and next thing you know, I'm like 3 hours deep in a Wikipedia rabbit hole about something completely random. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's the mark of a true lifelong learner. And speaking of which, that's the next point the source dives into. It challenges this idea that education stops when we graduate or finish formal schooling. It argues that true intelligence is about continuously seeking knowledge and expanding our horizons throughout our lives.
This resonates with me because I feel like I've learned some of the most valuable things outside of a classroom, whether through reading or listening to podcasts like this one, or just conversations with people. It's those informal learning experiences that often shape our understanding of the world.
Absolutely. The source highlights that a lot of history's most brilliant minds were self-taught. They were driven by a thirst for knowledge, and they pursued their own interests with curiosity. It wasn't about checking boxes or getting certifications. It was about the pure joy of learning and discovery.
I love that. So how do we incorporate this idea of lifelong learning into our already busy lives? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by everything going on.
You're right. It's about finding small, sustainable ways to integrate learning into our routines. Even just 20 minutes a day. To read or listen to a podcast, take an online course, it can make a world of difference. It's not about big changes overnight. It's about consistent effort.
That's a really great point. We think we need huge chunks of time to learn, but those small, consistent actions, they really can make a difference. Okay, so here's a question I've always found fascinating. Does who we surround ourselves with influence our intelligence? I'm thinking of that quote. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That quote gets to the heart of this idea. We're social creatures. We learn through observation, interaction, and, just like osmosis, the people we spend time with. Their habits, their ways of thinking, their values, they all rub off on us in subtle ways. It's almost like we absorb knowledge and behaviors from those around us.
So to become smarter, hang out with smarter people. I'm kidding, sort of. But I get what you're saying. It's not about ditching your friends, but about expanding your network, seeking out people who challenge you intellectually, who introduce you to new ideas and inspire you to think differently.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment that supports your intellectual growth.
Hmm.
Think about joining groups or online communities where stimulating discussions happen, engaging conversations that push you to think critically, and consider different perspectives. It's about constantly challenging yourself and your assumptions.
Yeah, I love
Oh,
that. It's
yeah.
like surrounding yourself with possibility,
Yeah.
with people who are constantly growing and learning.
Yeah.
And that energy, it's contagious.
It is, and it can be transformative. The source also emphasizes that it's not just about passively absorbing information from others. It's about actively engaging in the learning process, asking questions, sharing your own insights, and contributing to the collective knowledge.
That's a great point. It's like a two-way street, You're both learning from others, and you're also sharing what you know, which helps solidify your own understanding.
Exactly. It creates a virtuous cycle of learning and growth, and it makes the process much more engaging and rewarding.
One of the things that really struck me about this whole idea of surrounding yourself with smarter people is that it could be intimidating, right? Like, what if you feel like you're the least intelligent person in the room? What if you're afraid to speak up or ask questions?
That's a really valid concern, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with. But I think it's important to remember that everyone is on their own learning journey. No one has all the answers, and everyone starts somewhere.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
I guess it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between seeking out those challenging environments and also being kind to yourself and not feeling pressured to be perfect.
Exactly. It's about embracing the process of learning with all its ups and downs and recognizing that making mistakes is part of the journey.
It's interesting you mentioned mistakes because that actually leads perfectly into the next point from the source, which is the power of embracing those mistakes as opportunities for learning.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a crucial mindset shift that can really accelerate our intellectual growth.
It's like instead of seeing mistakes as failures, we can start to view them as valuable feedback, as signposts that are guiding us in the right direction.
That's a great way to put it, because every mistake is an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to improve. If we never made mistakes, we'd never grow.
It's like that saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Yeah.
I remember reading about the Feynman technique, named after the physicist Richard Feynman. He had this method where he would explain concepts as if he was teaching them to a child.
The Feynman technique is a great way to solidify your understanding because it forces you to break down complex ideas into simple terms. And when you can do that, it means you've truly grasped the core principles.
Yeah, I love that. It's like having a built-in study buddy right there in your own head.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about something that often gets a bad rap: mistakes. The source we're looking at encourages us to embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, which I think is really important, especially in a culture that emphasizes perfection.
It's all about perspective. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures or setbacks, what if we viewed them as valuable feedback? Every mistake is a chance to learn, adjust, and improve. Think about it. If we never made mistakes, how would we ever grow?
It's like learning to ride a bike, right? You're going to fall, probably multiple times. But each time you fall, you learn something. You learn how to balance, how to steer, and eventually you get it. And it's the same with intellectual growth. Those stumbles are actually guiding us toward a deeper understanding.
Exactly. And embracing this mindset, it can have a huge impact on our learning.
Okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. Let's talk about focus. In a world of distractions, social media, notifications, all that, focusing can feel impossible sometimes.
You're not alone. The source really emphasizes deep work, those periods of intense, focused concentration, where we can really get into a task. It's during those times that our brains are able to process information, make connections, and come up with creative solutions.
The problem is getting into that state of deep work. It's like our brains are wired to be distracted.
Yeah.
But the source has some practical tips that are surprisingly helpful. Have you ever tried the Pomodoro technique?
Yes, it's a time management method where you work in bursts of 25 minutes, followed by a short 5-minute break. It's simple, but really effective for breaking down tasks and preventing burnout.
I was skeptical at first, but the Pomodoro technique has been a game changer for me. It's like giving my brain a break, so I can come back feeling refreshed and focused.
The source also talks about minimizing distractions, which seems obvious, but it's so crucial. Turning off notifications, putting your phone on silent, and creating a dedicated workspace. These little things can really help you concentrate.
It's about creating a sanctuary for your mind, a place where you can really focus without being constantly bombarded. All right, let's move on to a concept that I think is fundamental to intelligence, developing a growth mindset.
This builds on what we were talking about earlier, about embracing mistakes. The idea of a growth mindset, which comes from Dr. Carol Dweck, is so powerful. It's about shifting our beliefs about intelligence. People with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence is static. You're either born smart or you're not. But those with a growth mindset believe that intelligence is something you can develop through effort, learning, and persistence.
So it's the difference between thinking, I'm not good at math, and thinking, I'm not good at math yet. That one word yet, it makes all the difference. It implies that you can improve.
Exactly. And the source emphasizes that embracing a growth mindset is essential for intellectual development. When we believe we can get smarter, we're more likely to embrace challenges, persist through setbacks, and achieve our full potential.
I am a huge believer in the power of mindset. It's like this invisible force that shapes our actions and our results. If we believe we can grow, we're more likely to put in the effort and embrace the journey.
And that leads us to the next point, which is all about practicing critical thinking. In a world where we are overloaded with information, the ability to think critically is more important than ever. We can't just accept everything we read or hear. We have to be able to analyze information, evaluate sources, and form our own opinions.
It's like having a BS detector, right?
Yeah.
Critical thinking helps us navigate the world with discernment, confidence, and clarity. It's about questioning assumptions, looking for evidence, considering different perspectives.
The source breaks down critical thinking into analyzing information from multiple angles, seeking evidence before forming opinions, and challenging your own beliefs and assumptions. It's about being open-minded, but also being discerning and thoughtful.
I think this is super important, especially now. With so much misinformation and fake news, it's easy to get caught up in stuff that's not true. But by developing our critical thinking skills, we become more resilient and can better navigate the complexities of, well, everything.
It's about being active participants in our own learning, not just passive recipients of information.
Okay, get ready for this one. It might surprise you. The source says that what we eat can impact our intelligence.
Really?
Yeah, you telling me that there's a secret brain-boosting diet out there?
Well, it might sound surprising, but there's growing evidence that nutrition plays a crucial role in cognitive function. What we put into our bodies affects how our brains work.
Okay, so tell me more. What are the brain power foods we should be stocking up on?
The source mentions nuts, fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and leafy green vegetables. These foods are full of nutrients that support brain health, like antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals.
So it's not just about exercising our brains, it's about giving them the right fuel. I can already picture my superhero brain-boosting smoothie. But it's not just about food, right? The source also mentioned exercise and sleep.
Absolutely. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, and sleep is crucial for memory consolidation, cognitive processing, and overall brain health.
So it all ties together. Nourishing our bodies, moving our bodies, giving our brains the rest they need. It's a holistic approach to, well, being our best selves.
Exactly.
And that actually brings us to the final point for today. The source emphasizes that becoming smarter. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey.
It is. It's about consistency.
It's about building those habits that support our growth, like reading regularly, having thoughtful conversations, and constantly challenging ourselves to learn new things.
Yeah.
It's the small, consistent actions that lead to the big changes.
Think of it like building a muscle. You don't go to the gym once and expect results. It's about those consistent workouts week after week that lead to strength and growth. Same with our brains.
And this is where people get tripped up, right? They get all excited about self-improvement, try to do everything at once, and then they burn out. The key is to start small. Be patient and celebrate the small wins. Pick one or two strategies and commit to practicing them. Make sustainable changes that you can stick with for the long haul.
That's a great way to approach it, because small changes over time can lead to big results. And when you focus on consistency, you're much more likely to achieve your goals.
You know, one of the things I appreciate about this source is that it doesn't just tell us to be smarter, it gives us a framework for actually doing it. It provides practical strategies and insights that we can actually implement in our lives.
I agree. It's a very actionable approach to intelligence. It empowers us to take control of our own intellectual development and to create a life of continuous learning and growth.
So if you're listening to this and feeling inspired, Take that inspiration and turn it into action. Pick one thing from today's discussion and make a commitment to yourself to start incorporating it into your life.
Even a small step in the right direction can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for part 1 of our deep dive into becoming smart is easy, actually. Be sure to tune in for part 2, where we'll continue to explore the fascinating world of intelligence and unlock even more strategies for boosting your brain power.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And in the meantime, keep those questions coming, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.
That's the best way to become smarter and to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Absolutely. Until next time.
See you then.
So speaking of challenging ourselves,
No?
this next point from the source was really interesting to me. It argues that teaching what you learn is one of the best ways to really solidify that knowledge. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but stick with me.
It actually makes sense when you think about what goes into teaching. You can't just have like a surface level understanding. When you explain something to another person, you have to break down the concept, organize your thoughts, and find ways to articulate the information clearly. And in doing that, you deepen your own understanding.
Yeah, it's like that saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. I remember reading about the Feynman technique.
Oh, yeah.
It's named after the physicist Richard Feynman. And his method was to explain things as if he was teaching them to a child.
The Feynman technique. It's a great approach. And anyone can use it. Imagine trying to learn something complex. Try explaining it to someone else, even an imaginary friend. By breaking it down, you really force yourself to understand it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that sometimes gets a bad rap. Mistakes. The source encourages us to embrace mistakes as opportunities for learning,
Yeah.
which I think is so important. You know, we live in a culture that emphasizes perfection.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about changing how we think about making mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, what if we saw them as feedback? Every mistake is a chance to learn and get better. Think about it. If we never made any mistakes, we would never grow.
Yeah, it's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall down. Many times, probably. But each fall teaches you something new.
Right.
Like you learn to adjust your balance. You figure out how to steer, and eventually you get it. And it's the same with anything, really. Especially intellectual growth. Those stumbles along the way, they're actually guiding us to a deeper understanding.
Exactly. And when we embrace that, it changes how we learn.
Okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. Let's talk about focus.
Okay.
In a world full of distractions, you know, social media and all those notifications, focusing can feel like a superpower.
It can. And the source really emphasizes deep work. Those periods of intense focus where we can really dive into a task, and it's in those moments that our brains can process information, make connections, and come up with new ideas.
Yeah, the hard part is actually getting into that state of deep work.
Right.
It seems like our brains are just wired to be distracted these days.
It does sometimes.
But the source offers some helpful tips. Have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Yes. It's where you work in focused blocks of time, like 25 minutes, and then you take a short break, like 5 minutes. It's simple, but it can be really effective for getting things done and not getting burned out.
I was skeptical at first,
Yeah.
but I have to admit, it's been a game changer for me. It's like my brain gets these mini recharges.
Yeah.
So I can come back to my work feeling refreshed.
That makes sense.
The source also talks about minimizing distractions, which, I mean, it seems obvious, but it's so important.
Oh, it is. Like turning off notifications, putting your phone on silent, creating a dedicated workspace. All those little things can really add up.
It's like creating a quiet space for your mind. You know, a place where you can really focus.
Yeah, a place where you can think.
Okay, let's move on to something that I think is super important for intelligence. Developing a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
This kind of builds on what we were talking about with embracing mistakes.
It does. The idea of a growth mindset, which comes from Dr. Carol Dweck, is so important. It's about changing how we think about intelligence. People with a fixed mindset think intelligence is set, like you're either born smart or you're not. But people with a growth mindset, they believe that intelligence is something you can develop through hard work and learning.
So it's like the difference between saying, I'm not good at math, and I'm not good at math yet. That one word, yet. It makes all the difference.
It really does.
It implies that you can get better.
Exactly. And the source really emphasizes that having a growth mindset is key for intellectual development. When we believe we can get smarter, we're more likely to try hard, keep going when things are tough, and reach our full potential.
I'm a huge believer in mindset. I think it's like this invisible force that shapes our actions and ultimately our results. If we think we can grow, we're more likely to put in the effort and really embrace the whole process.
About the journey.
Okay, so that brings us to the next point, which is all about practicing critical thinking.
Okay.
Today, we're bombarded with information from so many sources, and it seems like the ability to think critically is more important than ever.
It is.
We can't just believe everything we read or hear.
Right.
We have to be able to analyze the information,
Yeah,
evaluate the sources,
for sure.
and form our own informed opinion.
Exactly.
It's like having a BS detector.
Yep.
Critical thinking helps us navigate the world with confidence and clarity. It's about questioning things, looking for evidence, considering different points of view.
The source talks about how critical thinking involves analyzing information from different angles and looking for evidence before forming opinions, and even questioning your own beliefs. It's about being open-minded, but also thoughtful.
I think this is so important today, especially with so much misinformation out there. It's easy to get caught up in things that aren't true.
It is.
But when we develop our critical thinking skills, we're less likely to be misled. And we can better understand the complexities of, everything.
Yeah, it's about taking an active role in how we learn, rather than just passively taking in information.
Okay, so are you ready for this next point? It might surprise you. The source says that what we eat can actually impact our intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, are you telling me there's like
Gotcha.
a secret brain-boosting diet?
It might sound surprising, but there is a growing body of evidence that suggests that nutrition plays a crucial role in cognitive function. What we eat affects how our brains work.
Okay, so tell me more. What are the foods we should be eating?
Well, the source mentions things like nuts and fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and also leafy green vegetables. They're full of nutrients that support brain health.
So it's not just about exercising our brains, it's also about fueling them with the right foods. I'm already picturing my superhero brain-boosting smoothie.
That's a great way to think about it.
But it's not just about the food, right? I remember the source also mentioned exercise and sleep.
Absolutely. Exercise is great for increasing blood flow to the brain, and sleep is essential for memory and overall brain health.
So it all ties together. Eating well, exercising, getting enough sleep. It's a holistic approach to, just being our best.
It is, and it all contributes to our cognitive well-being.
And that brings us to the last point for today. The source emphasizes that becoming smarter, it's not something that happens overnight. It's a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
It's about consistency.
It's about building those good habits, like reading regularly, having deep conversations, and always challenging ourselves to learn new things. It's the small, consistent actions that make a big difference over time.
Think of it like building a muscle. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be super strong.
Yeah.
It's the consistent workouts that matter. The same goes for our brains.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They get excited about self-improvement,
Right.
try to do everything at once,
Yeah,
and then they just get overwhelmed and give up.
so true.
The key is to just now start small,
Small steps.
be patient, and celebrate those little wins along the way. Choose a couple of strategies and commit to practicing them. It's all about making those small changes that you can actually stick with.
That's a great way to look at it, because even small changes over time can lead to significant results.
Yeah.
And when you focus on consistency, you're much more likely to reach your goals.
One of the things that I really like about this source is that it doesn't just tell us to be smarter. It gives us a plan to actually do it. It provides practical advice
I agree.
and insights that we can actually use.
It's very actionable, and it makes me feel empowered to take control of my own learning.
Yes, me too. So, if you're listening to this and you're feeling inspired, take that inspiration and turn it into action. Choose one thing from today's deep dive and commit to incorporating it into your life.
Even a small change can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So that's it for part 2 of our deep dive into becoming smart is easy, actually. Be sure to join us for part 3, where we'll continue exploring all these strategies for becoming smarter and unlocking our full potential.
I'll be here.
Me too. And in the meantime, keep those questions coming. Keep learning and keep diving deep into the world around you.
That's the best way to learn and grow.
I couldn't agree more. See you next time.
See you then.
As we wrap up this deep dive into intelligence, I'm curious, what stood out to you the most from this source?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think for me, it's the importance of a growth mindset, you know? It's a powerful reminder that we are all capable of learning.
I love that. And it really gets to the heart of what this source is saying. Becoming smarter is a choice, and it's a choice that's available to all of us. It's not about being born with a certain IQ. It's about developing the right habits and mindsets.
Yeah. This deep dive has shown me that intelligence isn't fixed, it's a process. It's something we can actively shape.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so empowering. No matter where you are in your learning journey, you can always grow and explore. It's about embracing lifelong learning and realizing that our potential is limitless.
It is.
So,
Yeah.
as we finish up, I want to leave you with this. What's one small step you can take today to start building your intelligence?
That's a great question for everyone to think about.
And remember, every journey starts with a single step. So keep those questions coming, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the world around you. Until next time.
See you then.